Good evening, everyone. Adequate notice of this meeting was provided to the Westfield Leader, advertised on January 5th, 2017. Notification was sent to the Star Ledger and prominently posted on the Municipal Public Bulletin Board and filed in the office of the municipal clerk, informing the public of the time and place according to the provisions of the Open Public Meeting Law, Chapter 231 PL 1975. We'll start with our Borough Attorney, Mr. Renat.
Thank you. I guess the main thing that we have is the, just housekeeping really. A contract was prepared with respect to the Center Street project that you awarded. I don't think I have anything else for you tonight. There aren't any ordinances, new ordinances being introduced tonight. We have public hearings on several ordinances next meeting, so I think that's all.
Thank you, Mr. Renat. Anybody have anything for Mr. Renat? Okay. And our Borough Clerk Administrator is not here with us this evening, Ms. Ariema, but we do have Ms. Worzbinski. Is there anything that Ms. Ariema left?
She has nothing, so there's no report for tonight.
Okay, thank you. Any unfinished business the council may have? New business? Okay, so we'll roll into comments or matters for discussion.
No, I have no business, but I was pointing to Jennifer first.
Oh, well, we go in our order next. So new business is anyone that wants to present anything?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
It's all you, Councilwoman Kudrow.
This would have been on laws and license, but I figured I wanted to introduce it before. I did give everybody a handout sheet. We did have a very productive meeting last week, and the first thing that was discussed was the recent rodent issue in town. This is a problem that affects everyone that lives here and must be addressed now. We spoke to the Board of Health, and they provided us with an ordinance we can work off of, as we currently do not have one to address this at the town at this time. I made copies for everyone to review, and it was a majority consensus from our committee to move forward. We do not want to have the Board of Health address the need for an ordinance, as they do not meet enough to be able to monitor this. This issue has been going on for quite a few years, all stemming from when council voted to stop spraying the brook. It has escalated drastically, and is one of the reasons we are where we are today. It is our job to make our town safe and clean for everyone, and passing this ordinance is the only way I feel that it can be done. I know we all agreed to start spraying again. We did ask, and the spraying is done early spring and early summer, so obviously it's too late for that now, but together we can have Garwood back on track this coming year. Also, the brook will have to be addressed for the extreme overgrowth that is currently there now. We would like to, together with the rest of council's approval, have Mr. Renaud move forward with drafting the ordinance so it can be ready for the next council meeting. I know that passing this ordinance, as well as spraying the required amount of times per year, will alleviate our neighbors' concerns, so we don't have people all over town worrying about rodents in their backyard. So I don't know if anybody got a chance to renew it. It's from Westfield, and she specifically points out the rodents in the highlighted parts. But if there's anything else in here that you feel could be a nuisance for neighbors and people in town, bring it forward, and I think we can move forward on it. I think it was like we all decided that that was the best idea at this current time.
Is there any, consequences for not following these rules that are a part of this ordinance, or that these are just standards that are supposed to apply?
Right, these are standards, basically, because we were looking for the rodent issue. She highlighted the two bottom ones to address that. But there's, there's also other things we should be doing, as residents to make sure that this does not become an issue. But they seem to have been spreading all over town.
Now, I haven't read this, so does it put the responsibility on the borough to do certain things? Does it put it on the homeowner, specific things? What does it really do?
It puts a lot of it on the homeowner, and we suggest for businesses as well as residential.
Now, what if it's not a penalty? What happens? Who enforces this? And what are there any possible punishments? Forgive me for asking, I just don't have the...
No, that's okay. I mean, it's a matter of, all of these things in here are considered public nuisances, and what could cause further problems down the line. We were wanting to address the rodent issue, but there was a couple other good things I felt in here that could be applicable to stopping the rodents as well. So...
But I share the same question that Councilman Serna, which is what I said before, which is about, is there something in here for enforcement, or some sort of consequences if people don't follow these guidelines? Do you need want to entertain that idea, or do we not?
Well, if
We
it's,
just-
if it's reported on, from what I got from the whole nuisance thing, if it's reported on, then they have to abide by what this ordinance is. I mean, there's everything from,
We have, actually, this would, if you're going to adopt this, rather than have the Board of Health do it,
right,
it would go, we have a chapter for health and sanitation that has a penalty provision that says that anybody who violates any provision of the chapter is subject to imprisonment for a term not to exceed 90 days, or a fine not exceeding $1,000, or a period of community service not exceeding 90 days. So if we don't change those penalty provisions, then any violation would be subject to those same penalty provisions that all the other health and sanitation violations are subject to. I guess the interesting point or question is, if we were to adopt this ordinance, who is going to be the enforcement agent? Because I believe in Westfield, this is not a regular Westfield ordinance. This has to be a Westfield Board of Health ordinance, so I assume the health department
Right,
enforces it.
that's right.
So who's going to enforce it?
Giselle, I'm sorry to cut in, but Giselle is our environmental person that does these inspections, and she would be the one to enforce it.
Is she from the Board of Ed, Board of
Regional
Health?
Board of Health, yeah, she's our new inspector.
Just to give everyone a little background information too, how a scenario would play out, is that health department inspector would come out to a property where there was a complaint and also check neighboring properties. If they're found to, if they find holes that are considered rat burrows, then they would let the property owner know and let them know they need to remediate it. They've done that thus far, but they have no power to really make sure the homeowner follows up. And so this part of the ordinance, if this is added in, allows for that enforcement piece. Right now, they are telling the resident, you have a rat burrow on your property, you need to get a exterminator in here to exterminate, but they have no way of holding the person accountable to doing that.
and also what's going on is neighbors are blaming other neighbors. So, I mean, I know what happened around the corner for me, and they said, well, you have the rat burrows in your property, so it can't be the neighbor next door. So it's a matter of people don't want to get it taken care of, well then, you know, I guess they can have running rodents all over the place.
Does the Board of Health, after alerting that resident that they have the burrows and need to get an exterminator, they don't follow up and find, I would imagine
do
that
Well,
they follow up.
They do.
They do follow up, they'll make those calls, they've been doing that so far, but
Okay.
they really have no mechanism
So if
to-
they don't do it, they just
to
keep telling
enforce
them
if they
to
don't
do it?
comply. Correct.
So
And
the
I
title of the person who's going to enforce this is health inspector?
Correct.
Yes.
Because we don't have that in, that isn't in the ordinance draft that I was given, so we'll have to work that in
Okay.
with who's going to enforce it. Okay.
Does everyone support directing Mr. Renard to go forward with that preparation?
You can go forward with preparation, I just want to see what the end product's go, but,
Yeah, and how many
Yeah, I saw-
times do we
I mean, I don't know if I.
alert them, you know, that sort of thing, if they don't comply
And
once,
does the-
twice?
Sorry, go ahead.
No, that, I mean, that sort of needs to be very specific, I would imagine.
Yeah, I'm still confused about enforcement right now, so I would need, I say go forward with it, but I need to see it in paper, and then I would like for it, you know, I guess, just for there to be more specifics about, yeah, how, you know, if after two times, what's going to happen, you know?
Well, if somebody calls up, because I know there's been a few people that called me up to let me know, and I called the Board of Health, and they were out there within an hour. And they told the person, this was a business, so they told the person what had to be done, they did it, and it was taken care of. So, I mean, it's basically, it's you as a neighbor to be protecting your neighbors all around you, and you really should be doing what you're.
And how is this not, what's different than what's on the books now?
There isn't, we don't have
Because,
it.
I mean, Bob was just reading, you know, certain provisions within the health code, what is different, what's being added? That's what,
Councilman Sarno, to answer your question, the part in yellow on page 2
Yeah,
is
that
what
part's
would be
That's,
added.
yeah, that's the
Everything
rodents.
else is existing, and I did
Okay.
a bit of research on this too, it might be valuable to know. Fanwood is also in the health department that we are with Westfield, and I looked up their code. It was a lot easier, quite honestly, than looking up Westfield because that one just wouldn't load for me, but Fanwood's did. and it was written exactly this way. It didn't directly mention health officer, health inspector there, but it was worded this way, word for word.
I think what would help is maybe a copy to all of us from Fanwood.
So we're talking about only
It's
the
pretty
part
simple,
that's
you don't mind.
highlighted, not the rest of this?
Well, I mean, the thing is, there's a lot of things in there that could alleviate the highlighted part. So if the council felt like there was other things that should be included, since we don't have this ordinance now, and people have been complaining about it.
Right.
And then basically moving forward, the coming year, we'd have to see who's gonna be taking care of cleaning out the brook. Obviously, you know, with the winter coming, those things will die off. So that has to be taken care of. You know. And also spraying, so spraying would have to be done, twice a year. If we needed it more times, then it just depends on what the company recommends.
And just on spraying of the brook, at that time, 2 years ago when that first came up, we were told that spraying the brook did not have a direct impact on rodent control, rat control. So that came up at the time, but over the years, this is what the health officer is recommending. We obviously did the spraying this year, as you mentioned, so I think we're in a good place to move forward, but I just want that on record.
Yeah, she also said that we sprayed too late, because we brought it up not that long ago. It was September or whenever it was, so basically the spraying should have been done in early spring.
Mhm.
And it could take, you know, more than a year to get this rectified. But I mean, you know, it's for the residents, and of course, depends on how much it would cost to get rid of the landscaping in the brook. I mean, I don't know who took care of that. Does anybody know who took care of that before?
It's been a private company, I believe.
Yeah,
and
Great
it was
Blue.
It's been a few $1,000s it cost.
And the spraying, when they do that, allows for the vegetation to die, so the inspector, whoever, can bait the brook. But they can't bait it with all the vegetation, so that's the whole purpose of the spraying.
So this will start out the new year. I mean, the winter will kill off a lot of the vegetation, and then the spraying will come in early spring, early summer, and hopefully we can get back on track with this, because you just can't have rodents running all over the town.
Okay, I think we're ready to ask Mr. Renat to proceed with that.
Yeah, I just think it makes more sense, to tell you the truth. We have provisions that cover many of these things, but
Mhm.
I would say, I don't see any reason not to adopt pretty much the whole thing
Right.
as is, including the highlighted portions, but also the other portions, and put in an enforcement provision.
Yeah, because I read some of those, and some of them, I can't even believe that it would happen, you know, but.
Well, I mean, some of them are, you know,
Yeah.
obviously this was written in, you know, 1904 or something, so, you know, we've got some, you know, the.
People not in the
example, you know,
outhouses, Bob?
Yeah, privy vaults and cesspools.
Now, we're gonna hold businesses accountable as well?
Yes.
We are, okay. No, that's a good thing, because, I mean, I reached out to Russo, actually. They're going through a whole redevelopment in Waldwick, and there's a whole thing about rats. Residents were blaming him. He countered and said, not really, it's not me. I asked about his concerns. He said, listen, when the time comes that these buildings are raised, okay, we'll make sure that we have the entire area abated, and that, you know, heaven forbid that there becomes a rodent problem that follows that, it's been taken care of. So maybe this helps in that sense, heaven forbid something does happen.
Yeah, most of the time, it's around food establishments. It's
Right.
really not around.
That's what,
Yeah,
Right.
that's
It
also
should
what
be an
Russo
equal
said.
standard,
He said
yeah.
it was more coming from the dumpsters left over from so-and-so.
yeah.
Mhm.
But that's, you know.
But they're really good on it. The Board of Health is really excellent.
In
going
theory, I
out.
agree.
Good. I think we're ready to move
Yeah.
forward. I'll be happy to send a link to what I read from Fanwood to Mr. Renat and the rest of the council, but I do invite the rest of the council, look up other towns' ordinances. It's a quick Google search. Sometimes it is easier than other times, depending on the town, but if you're curious about what other places are doing. Okay. Anyone else have an item for new business? Okay. Comments or matters for discussion from members of the council? Councilwoman Blumenstock.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a quick one, actually. I just wanted to thank ShopRite as well as their dietitian, Victoria, as part of the Mayor's Wellness Program, which is an offshoot of the Green Team. They have had and will continue to have different sessions at ShopRite to go over nutrition and making quick meals, And they had one for seniors that was geared towards them. And then this past Saturday, I took my girls to one that was geared towards kids, and it was fantastic. I can't say enough about it. Victoria was great with the kids, and it was actually a scavenger hunt. When we had to go around checking off different things, looking at the labels, and finding new foods that they had never heard of before, and it was a good time, and I think the girls had a great time, and I just wanted to let everybody know there's another one coming up in November for adults, so keep an eye out for advertising for that. And also, I wanted to thank one of the Green Team members, Dorinda Deck, and Richard Noors of Noors Farms up in Hillsborough, donated, as you came in today, you might have seen by the announcement board, some fall decorations. We were busy today putting that out here and by Kennedy Plaza, and they donated their time and their materials, and I think it came out great, and so that's it. You can go check out Kennedy Plaza on the way home.
Definitely, that's great. Okay, Councilwoman Kukrow, anything?
No.
Okay. Councilman Lazara?
Nothing for me.
Councilman Petrozelli?
Yeah, Mayor. The only thing I have to bring up, because we do have a recreation meeting next Monday, I believe, is the senior brunch this year, which they normally have in August. They had a hard time getting the date down. So the senior brunch is going to be Sunday, October 29th at the Knights of Columbus, and that's from 11 to 2. And this year, the Halloween is, Halloween's going to be the theme for the seniors, so that's going to be kind of interesting, if they decide to, participate in that. Also, ice skating is tentatively set up for December 2nd from 6 to 8 at Warnaco. So we're just waiting to hear back as a confirmation for that. That is set up for December 2nd.
Great.
That's really it. I don't really have a report for tonight. I just wanted to pass that on.
Okay, terrific. Are they still accepting basket donations for their senior
Yeah.
dinner?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, terrific. Councilman Sarno?
Thank you. My question, I guess it goes to Bob on this, I know. I want to talk about the bedroom makeup of Russo 2.
Okay?
When was that decided? And how was that decided? Because I don't see it anywhere in writing.
I'm not sure that I remember exactly. I know that there was a discussion when I know there was an executive session discussion about the resolution of the issue of so many units on the north side and what the trade-off between those units was to be. In other words, what was the trade-off to reduce the number of units from 350 to 298. I didn't handle those negotiations, you will probably recall, so I didn't put anything in writing on that because I didn't handle the negotiations.
All right, so you're telling me that was handled by Bill Northbury, is that right?
Councilman Sarno, we received an email on March 1st from Mr. Northgrave. He sent it to Ms. Ariema. It was subject drawings from last night. It was on that.
Drawings, they're concept drawings. Can concept drawings constitute exactly what the bedroom makeup should be? That's my
Mr. Renato.
question. To answer her email, I'm pointing it more to you, Bob.
Well, I don't know that in an open meeting that I want to discuss what the council's options would be with respect to the bedroom mix vis-a-vis Russo. I guess that's really all I have to say. I don't think that's a discussion that you want to have. My understanding is there are negotiations going on, and I don't want to prejudice those negotiations by making public statements about what was or wasn't agreed to.
It was discussed.
It was discussed.
Mhm.
Do you have anything else, Councilman?
You're talking about the 3 bedrooms, right?
Whatever the makeup is, yeah, I'm
Well, the
talking.
3 bedrooms are going to families.
I know that part. I'm talking about what the exact makeup is of 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms. I want to know when that discussion happened, where it was. He's telling me the answer, I get it, but it's not clear, is the point I'm trying to make. It's not clear. It's not clear to, maybe it's not you, maybe it's Bill Northbury, but if he's not communicating that information to us in a clear and concise manner, then we need to stop working with him. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Well,
Should have been done.
again, I don't want to prejudice negotiations by making comments in public about what was or wasn't.
Well, I'm not going to go into the detail. I've gone far enough, but I want my point to be made clear here of what concerns I have going forward. And it's really for council to really think about here going forward. I understand. Because it was a mystery to me until only a couple weeks ago.
But wasn't this discussed before everybody voted on it?
This particular detail, the makeup, the exact makeup, no.
Wasn't that supposed to be left in council's hands? Or is that
believe
going
so.
back?
Mr. Renard, are we going a little too far with this?
Well, I don't think it's, my understanding, as I said, is there's negotiations that are going on with the developer, so it's what was agreed to, not agreed to, I guess is going to be an issue in the discussions with the developer. So,
Is
yeah, I
that going to be
don't,
with council or the planning board? Would that be with council or the planning board?
that would be with council.
Okay.
Well, I mean, it may be with both, but I mean, ultimately, the council makes all the ultimate decisions on the redevelopment. I mean, as you know, we had this discussion the last couple of times. The redevelopment ordinance, for example, is adopted eventually by the council. If there's a redevelopment agreement, that's entered into by the council. A financial agreement is entered into by the council. All of those things are ultimately the council's decision. As you know, the planning board has a role. We need to go through all those details, but ultimately all those decisions are the council's decisions. Other than, I suppose, the site plan details, once the redevelopment plan has been adopted and an application comes to the planning board.
Thank you, Mr. Renard. All right.
Are we bound to a financial agreement?
Well, that's another, yes is the answer to that. Not to the terms, I understand.
What do you mean? What's the difference?
Well, the financial agreements are terms. In other words, you're not bound to any particular terms.
Well, I mean, and well, then also with the COA, that's a deed restriction.
That's an agreement also.
And that's a 30-year deed restriction?
Correct.
What happens?
Actually, it's going to be a 50-year deed restriction, yes.
50
Yes,
for the developer now?
yes.
When?
Actually, I'm sorry, not with respect to the developer now, with respect to other projects.
All right, so what's going to happen after 30 years if he still owns his property? Then is the deed
With
restriction,
respect
is the
to-
deed restriction lifted?
Yes,
All right, so then,
generally, unless there's an agreement to continue it.
all right, so then if that deed restriction is lifted, then that means our COA requirements start all over again at that project.
Again, and I've said this before, I can't predict what the law is going to be in 2025, what it's going to be in 2035, what it's going to be in 2045, what it's going to be 30 years from
And the
now.
deed restriction was lifted, I think about 3 years ago. So, that could be an issue, because basically that will leave us on the hook for more COA units when we've already done that. I just read about this last week, because it was a little surprising to me that that could be the case.
yes, they come out eventually, but again, I don't know what the requirements are going to be 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years down the road. I just can't speculate on that.
Ready to move on? So it's my turn. I have a few items for workshops. The first one is I want to let everyone know the volunteer form for those interested in taking a look at the various ways you can volunteer here in Garwood, and I see a lot of volunteers already in the audience, but if you want, you can take a look at that on garwood.org, our town website. The other item I have is that in addition to the mayor's wellness that Councilwoman Blumenstock brought up, the mayor also had a walk this past weekend on Saturday, right after Mayor Saturday. It took about an hour and a quarter or so to do the 3K walk around Garwood, and it's first year for it, but I think they look forward to keeping those type of green team activities going. Also on my committee within the green team, education and outreach, we're talking about having a movie night. It looks like it will be in December, so once those details are worked out, I'll be happy to share them. Also last week, as was alluded to before, we had a meeting with the developer, Russo Development, at the school. It was an open meeting. It was a town hall, informal style meeting. It went very well. About 40 to 45 people came by that night. The meeting itself lasted almost 2 hours. The folks that came, many of them stood up and asked a bunch of great questions. There was a real variety of questions. They were terrific. And Mr. Russo provided answers, as did his attorneys and his attorney, just one attorney, and his engineer were also present to answer any resident questions to the best of their ability. Russo also brought drawings so that people could see the current condition next to the proposed look. Russo still, however, needs to go for a site plan review before the planning board, which will take place during open public meetings. And he also did commit to continuing to hold those types of informal town hall meetings going forward, even during construction, if things keep moving as they've been going. So I would like to ask the council if they would be willing to send a letter over to Dr. Quigley, the superintendent of schools, to thank her for the use of Lincoln School that night. So if we can do that. Okay, thank you. And the last item I have is revaluation. So as we all know, we were ordered to conduct a revaluation of Garwood by 2020. And I know we did receive one proposal for tax maps, revising them, updating them. However, Ms. Ariema had spoke about that a bit at the last meeting, and she just wanted to have clear direction from the council to go out for proposals again for tax maps to get a greater variety of proposals for us to review.
Yes.
Yes, we all agree. And secondly, I also contacted our tax assessor, Ann Switzer, today and spoke about revaluation, because one of the key issues for Garwood is really how to pay for it. It's not something, obviously, that was budgeted this year. It's not something that is like a capital item and it can be bonded over for years. The mechanism to pay, as we've talked about before, is a 5-year special emergency appropriation. So the thought was, and it was brought up at a meeting, to combine the cost of a tax map revisions with the actual cost of a revaluation. But in order to do that, you'd have to find out how much both will cost. Ms. Switzer told me that you do not have to have your tax maps updated to go out for proposals for the revaluation itself. So we could also direct Ms. Ariema to prepare those proposals, or rather advertise, do a request for proposals to see what about Garwood is looking at in terms of the cost of revaluation. So if everybody agrees, you can direct her to do that as well. Okay, terrific. So we're moving forward on that front, and that's all I have. Thank you. And now it's time for public comment. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to address the mayor and council? Please step to the microphone, state your full name and address. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Claudia. Welcome.
Thank you. Mayor and Council, I'm a resident of Cranford.
Okay. Could you
Robert
just?
Kraus, 20 Pittsfield Street.
Thank you.
It's good to see you all. I have 2 items I would like to bring to your attention today. One is in reference to the property, which we all call Heidi, at 4th Avenue. And I have copies of the article, which was in the Westfield Leader, and I only have 5 copies, so I don't know,
We'll
if you
share.
would like to
We'll
have-
share.
Yeah, I have 5 copies. The concern that we have in Cranford, and I did bring this up to our Cranford Township Committee 2 weeks ago, and they had instructed their engineer to contact your engineer here for the purpose of making sure that the current plan, if it were to go through, for that property, for the 9 townhouses, has sufficient water retention on the property. And at the last go-round with this property, which was 2 years ago, I believe,
3.5.
3.5, oh my gosh, how time flies, that there were many residents that were concerned about the water issue with the property because of the fact that there were the 9 townhouses, and then in addition, the blacktop, there was a massive blacktop area for parking and driveways, etc. My husband and I did go through the Brookside Detention Basin, which is immediately adjacent to that property. That's the Cranford line, immediately on the northern side, I believe it would be, or the northeastern side of that property. The Brookside Detention Basin is right there. And from plans, what we could detect, the detention basin, or the property area that they have planned for water storage, I forget what you call it, the water storage area for that property,
Dry
on the
well?
property, empties underground directly into the Brookside Detention Basin. So we really don't appreciate Garwood's water to add to our own problems. Having lived through 1970s when we had constant flooding from that brook, which they call the brook, I believe it's the Brookside Brook, it was a terrible situation, which was alleviated when our engineer at that time, Greg Segroy, built the detention basin. So water runoff from that property is a big issue. So we would hope that you would not only have the developer, if it is developed, conform his requirements to the state or to the borough of Garwood, whichever, but to increase them and to make it more water retention area, or to reduce the amount of blacktop. There are ways that you can persuade him.
And thank you, Ms. Ross. Just so you know, you have about a minute.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Thank
okay.
you.
Can I bring up another topic?
Yes.
Okay. This is involving the new McDonald's. And the new McDonald's is lovely. My husband and I enjoy going every once in a while. But there is a safety issue, and the police chief is still here. He is the police chief?
Yes.
The old design had a walkway, a designated walkway from the parking lot to the building. Now, there's a bigger parking lot, but you have to cross three driveway areas, so to speak, 3 ingress areas. One is the parking lot, people coming in off of North Avenue into the parking lot, coming in very quickly at a very fast pace. Then you have 2 drive-up driveways to get over. And it is very iffy if you can make it and be safe. So why could not McDonald's make a crosswalk as they had before to be able to go through there without worrying about a car coming and hitting you? And there are many senior citizens that go into
Right.
McDonald's. They have walkers, they have canes, they have all kinds of things.
And
I-
thank you for raising both of those issues with us, Ms. Ross.
Thank you for listening.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to come to the microphone? I'm going to let Mr. Renat answer at the end. Anyone else? Mr. Patterson?
It was an application.
Evening, Mayor Pro Tem Tedesco, ladies and gentlemen of the Freeholder Board, Bruce Patterson, 325.
Freeholder board?
Freeholder board?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I had
2 days from
nothing
now.
to do with them.
Planning board tomorrow. No, sorry, other council. But I just want to thank Russo for his presentation because it was nice having him on the town hall meeting and actually hearing his side of the story, as you say, which I'll get to in a moment. But I also have to at least thank Joe Sarno, Councilman Sarno, for raising concerns. I mean, no, I've been expressing various concerns. Joe Sarno now is raising concerns about transparency and you know, in inter-local discussions between groups, and it's about time we have to do something at this moment before it is too late. So far, as you've been listening to me, I'm sure, every step of the way, basically, we missed this opportunity, and this goes back to now the presentation. At the presentation, a couple people talked about parking issues. There's like the seniors parking over there at the firehouse. There's some Zumba lessons or something over there 3 times a week over there. The fire department obviously needs parking. Borough Hall needs parking. And so what we're having now, based on whatever the plan is and the future plan for phase 2, that there is insufficient parking spots. And this was brought up. And I just want to read you, thanks to Elizabeth Matthew, who videotaped it. It's at timestamp 111, if anybody wants to refer to her video when they get home. But this is Mr. Russo quoted. As to parking for senior citizens, we recognize in some cases the shortage of parking around Borough Hall, around the firehouse. We are doing what we can to alleviate that problem. Not to say our development is to solve all the parking problems the borough has. As much as we want to help, it is not entirely our responsibility to provide every single parking spot. He goes on to say, our parking structure will have a positive impact. People will still walk across South Avenue to get to the borough. But what was disconcerting, what is disconcerting is, as much as we want to help, it is not entirely our responsibility to provide every single parking spot. And there's where I've been saying that the planning board and the council has fallen down on their responsibility to the residents in obtaining the proper amount of parking that we need. Somehow, the way he's acting, everything's done, he's controlling everything, but he's not. The council and the planning board has control. We had that redevelopment ordinance in there, so the borough maintains control. It appears we're losing control. Somehow we got to get that control back, and in particular is the parking issue. So I mean, I'm telling you now, and this was brought up about 4 years ago when Bill Nierstead was on the council, and I supported it. He mentioned eminent domain, and it is in the ordinance. So the question is, are we going to use eminent domain or not? Some people don't like it. I mean, there's no doubt about it. But this is a serious issue, and it's for the public good. And I think you better start considering eminent domain, and you really start thinking, moving forward, before it's way too late. And that's now in concrete, and that's now in concrete, and we're left with no resolution of any of our issues that we had to start with. And that's where we stand right now. So we have to do something moving forward, and something firm. The government here is supposed to protect our interests and serve the public good. All of you were elected for that. So far, as you know, I've been complaining about how critical thinking has been tossed aside, and
And if you could
everybody's
just wrap
working-
up, Mr. Patterson,
Go ahead.
if you could just wrap up, unless you're.
You sound like the other
okay.
man.
Well, I'm just trying to follow
Worse.
I'm trying to follow the rules, that's all.
Okay, but anyway.
If you set up rules, might as well follow.
Well, there's another public speaking portion, and I do have
There
other
is, right.
issues, but this one I want you seriously. You better consider moving forward. If it has to be eminent domain, it has to be eminent domain. Because at this point, Russo is saying, oh, it's not his responsibility. Well, guess what? It's your responsibility. You're the one. You're in control, supposedly. So,
Thank you,
very
Mr.
much.
Patterson. Would anyone else like to come to the microphone?
Jim Matthew, 335 Hazel Avenue. Just a question I have. What is the bedroom mix from Russo 2?
And Mr. Matthew, if you could just ask all your questions or make all the statements that you'd like in your time.
Sure.
So I'll
So,
write
yeah,
them down
that's-
as we go.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to find out. Do we know what the bedroom mix was?
Do you have any other questions before we answer them?
I may, depending on what the answer is.
Okay, well, this is your 3 minutes, so it's how you'd like to use them. Or you could have a seat and we can answer the other questions that were asked as well this evening.
Okay, does
Defer
anyone know?
some of your time
Is there,
for that.
is there an answer I
One,
can get
two,
from
three.
someone? Yeah, the 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms, or does anyone?
Well, there's others that have asked questions tonight that we want to go through, I would think, in an orderly fashion, so.
What's?
Yeah, look, I mean, are we in a hurry tonight? I mean, is there a problem?
No hurry, it's just rules are established for public comment.
Is it
We
supposed
should be
to,
following them.
supposed to be each question asked will be addressed later? That's what they do with the county, and you couldn't go back and
Well,
ask any
Right.
It's
questions.
called public comment, so technically,
Right,
public comment, you say your statements, and then we can address all the concerns and questions that you have. It's not
So,
public
alright.
questioning, it's public comment, but you can ask questions, and we can answer
All right,
questions.
it sounds really weird. It sounds like you're trying to shut down debate.
Far different than
No,
what
it's
Charles is
just-
doing.
Yeah. And it's
That's
Well,
the key.
and that's when Mayor Lombardo's here, but
Okay.
there's a rule, there's 3-minute time, and,
Just
public
easy.
comment is set up a certain way. I think sometimes a lot of the back and forth, it's gone a little out of hand, so. Mr. Renard, feel free to tell me if I'm out of line here, but.
No, the public comment portion under the Public Meetings Act is for public comment, so.
And the drawing from March 1st, it sounds like you said, Mayor Tedisco, that that was the mixture of 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms.
I'll address that later as well.
Okay. Also, and I guess I can't ask any follow-ups, even though I'm paying for it, but the athletic field complex, do we know when that's going to open?
I'll do that in my report.
Okay, and how much it's going to cost?
Councilman, we can address that later.
Okay. And Mayor Lombardo, last time I was here, never got back to me on why you were forced to resign from the Streets and Roads Committee in 2016 during Teamster contract negotiations. He had stated publicly that it was because of your master's program and the time required. Is that true? Was that why you were forced to resign during the contract negotiations? Perhaps you can enlighten us on that. I would like to have some follow-ups, maybe I'll do it afterwards. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to come to the microphone? Seeing none, we should go through the questions.
Oh, wait, I have a comment. Hi, Paul Matthew, 324 Penn Avenue. I'm sorry, can you just run that by me again? What is the, procedure for asking questions and having them answer? We no longer are able to have you answer questions right away. We have to give you the question and then wait for an answer. Is that the new procedure?
I wouldn't say it's the new procedure, it should have been this way a long time.
When Mayor Lombardo returns at the next council meeting, which procedure will be in place? The one tonight or the previous one? I'm just curious.
Sure,
I'm not-
sure. Do you have any-
I mean, I'm just really lost, that's all.
Sure. And do you have any other questions?
No,
Okay.
but, so you're gonna answer this question at the end of the night?
Not at the end of the night, at the end of public comment.
Oh, okay, great, thank you.
If I didn't
very
mention
much.
that earlier, that's what I,
Oh, okay,
intended.
thank you.
Mr. Delvanto?
Al Belconte, 545 Locust Avenue. To touch a little bit on the rat problem. As some of you may remember from years past, I've complained about it being a problem. Board of Health is trying to make it residents' problem, where really it is the council's problem to alleviate this rat problem, because being a property owner on Willow Avenue with the brook in the backyard, the rats are generated out of the brook. With the gabion baskets that are there, the rats tend to make homes in the gabion baskets. And then the burrows The gabion baskets are right to the property line, because years ago, when they cleaned the brook and dug the brook out, did the gabions, they put them right to the property lines. So now when the rats come out of the gabions, they come right up between them and the property line, so the burrows are on the resident's property. Okay, that's the issue I had. Health inspector is the one that enforces it, that's the one I had the issue with. Remember from years past. The town, trying to save money, does not bait the brook and does not spray the brook. It used to be done on a regular basis, okay? Like a lot of things used to be done on a regular basis in town that were cut out of services. You need to get back to it, you need to spray, you need to treat the brook on a regular basis, all right? And quit trying to make the problem our problem, all right? Because as the family of rats increase in the brook, then they start spreading out. And it's not just on the brook. They're on Hazel, Second, no brook, all right? They get into the storm drain system, out of the brook, and they go, and they find food, all right? And it could be the back of the restaurants, it could be people's garbage. That's where they're finding it from. So if you eliminate the rat problem in the brook, you'll take care of it from there. And I had the same issue where I live on Locust Avenue, an abandoned house in the back. It was Westfield. The rats were rampant in this house. The neighbor used to sit on his front porch and just watch them all day long, running in and out. I used to feed them on a regular basis. I couldn't buy the food fast enough to put out there poison. As fast as I would put it there, it'd be gone. And it was just day after day after day, week after week, feeding. Rat problem needs to be taken care of in the brook.
Thank you, Mr. Gilmore.
I want to thank Mr. Sarno for bringing up this issue over here on Willow Avenue for Russo 2, where we're going to be going to 3 bedrooms. I've heard it also. I don't know who's doing all the negotiating, but the negotiating from over here, Russo 1, they go from 315 to 298, give up 75 parking spaces, and now have to pick up 3 bedrooms over here. I don't know who's doing the negotiating, but I think the person should be fired, okay? And get somebody with a little more common sense, maybe somebody who's got some skin in the game, and have them doing some negotiations, because this gentleman that you got here definitely really doesn't care what's going on here in Garland.
Thanks,
Okay.
Mr. Gilmore. If you
And
could
on
just
a
wrap
lighter
up.
note, over at the high school, the ALJ football program, the team is 5-0. Friday night, they just won the Mid-State 38 Valley Division Group 2 Conference champs. So,
Great.
Well done.
I agree, well done. And we're heading in the right direction over there. So I wish that we could take care of a few things. And another issue too, I was just thinking, the garbage
If you
truck.
could just make it really quick.
Yeah, well,
Thanks.
yeah. The garbage truck. I know last week we
Didn't matter.
had 2 down. I mean, is this
It'll
going
be
to be
reported on, it
in
sounds
your
like.
report? Okay, I'll wait for that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All right, anyone else? Okay, so, we had the lady from Cranford here, and spoke about the Heidi property. Mr. Arnott, is there anything you'd like to say to that? I know she's no longer here, but something short?
No, I don't, I actually haven't been, I'm generally aware of the development, but I can't tell you that I've been following the details. I just happened to, because she mentioned there was an article, so I just went to the Westfield Leader site and I saw that it was apparently approved on, sometime in September.
September
so
13th was
literally,
approved. It was memorialized, you gotta remember it was first approved.
Right, I
And
was
then
gonna
it's
say, if
memorialized.
it's already been approved, it's, too late to be making suggestions about the development, so.
And then the second item about, she mentioned the new McDonald's possibly putting in a crosswalk. If the council were to want to take that on or
Well,
speak
again,
to the business owner?
I'm assuming that if they reconfigured the parking lot, that they must have gone to the planning board for site plan approval. Anybody know
That's
whether they did or not?
Yeah, that passed.
Right,
It was an
so-
8-1, that application.
You know,
passed.
again,
And
so,
the
So no
double
mention
driving
of
didn't
the-
matter?
need to, again, I can't, on that type of application, that type of variance, I can't vote on it.
Okay, that's right.
So I can't, I didn't have like a total say, you can listen to it, and that's about as far as it
Now,
went for
we're
me.
gonna stay
But
this-
all that was discussed, I mean, we had all the different plans, they were gone through in
Right.
great detail, and you talk about a crosswalk, I mean, that's a, it's a state road too,
Right, right.
so that adds another,
So, I mean, it's, you
I
know,
don't think she meant-
frankly, I mean, it's been approved, it's been approved.
That was
And that was what, that's what site plan approval, that's what the site plan approval process is. And if, you know, that's what the process is. So whoever, all the engineering was apparently submitted to the planning board, if that's the case. I'm sure the applicants, experts weighed in, McDonald's that is. I'm sure that the board's planner and engineer prepared a report and made such recommendations as were thought to be necessary. And I would assume that the vote was a result of the collective wisdom of the planning board and looking at what was before it. So that's, again,
Thank you. Her
Passed.
questions were more
Passed.
planning board related.
passed and done.
Okay, and then Mr. Patterson brought up parking at the Russo site and seniors and firefighters and so forth. So all I can say to that right now is there are 18 designated municipal spots worked out for the south side of South Avenue next to the firehouse and into what is owned by Russo. However, it's also under negotiation as we speak, the parking issue. The bedroom mix of Russo 2 was brought up. Mr. Renaud, should we speak about that publicly?
I don't know what again, I am not negotiating Russo 2, so I don't know what the status of negotiations are. I thought that there was, I'm just not handling that negotiation, and I'd rather not comment on it, particularly because I don't know what the facts are.
I'll just
I
share.
do, all I can tell you is I know that there was a discussion, but
And I'll just share
That's all I
that the
can
drawings that were sent to us on March 1st did have the mix on it. The recreation complex
Well, wait
came
a
up.
second, are you, just confirm yes or no, are you not talking to Bill Northgate as we speak right now on this property about the bedroom mix?
Can I answer that?
I don't know, my understanding was it was still being negotiated. If it's still being negotiated, then my suggestion is that it not be discussed because you,
I'm just asking yes or no, I'm not asking.
I
for
know,
details.
I get it.
Still
I
is
mean,
part
I
of the
just don't
discussion.
think anybody ought to be discussing it because if it's being negotiated, it's being negotiated as to what exactly was agreed on and what wasn't agreed on, and I don't think it's a good idea to be discussing what was or wasn't agreed on.
Well, the rendering had certain things on it.
Correct, that was my point. But then about the rec complex, Councilman Lazar, do you have a report on that later? Or do you want to address that, those questions now?
I mean, sure, I can address that now, but basically, we put it out to bid to get a contractor to repair the rec complex, and we never received any bids. That was reported last time. And the ending deadline for the next bid deadline is October 17th. So once we get an actual contractor to bid on that, then we can obviously report on that and hopefully get a more specific amount of, cost for the actual rec center. So that's
Thanks,
basically
so October 17th
October
will be opening
17th
bids.
will be the open bids meeting.
What if there is no bids?
Then, as Ms. Ariema pointed out, we would go for a no-bid contract. By local public contracts law, we're allowed to do that. But you must bid it twice before you can award any projects without a bid. So, as to the question about my status on the Streets and Roads Committee in 2016, I did not resign from that committee. I did ask the mayor for a different placement, which he granted. Then we had some other questions asked as far as the procedure goes. And I guess that's up to Mr. Lombardo when he comes back. But essentially, from my seat up here on the council, I've been a stickler for procedure, and therefore it would be no different while I'm sitting in this chair tonight, while he's on vacation.
I just have
And
one
then-
more question, if I could just, the March 1st rendering, you answered Jim Matthew 335 Hazel. You said to Councilman Sarno, and in a tone and in a way, like, you should have known by these drawings what the bedroom mix was. So why don't we know what the bedroom mix is? Was March 1st something that is controlling or not? This is, you don't know how you guys look out there. It's like the Keystone Cops.
Councilman, with all due respect.
How many,
we
all
have to
due
go through
respect,
these.
and listen, and you're lying about being forced to resign from the committee, and why?
Councilman, I'll ask
All
you to
right,
sit
so
down.
you're lying again.
Please have a seat.
What
Councilman.
is the mix of the 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms? And
Matthews.
stop lying.
Please have a seat. Also, Mr. Del Conte brought up the rat issue, and thank him for his comments on that, and also about the parking spaces that I addressed when Mr. Patterson asked about that. Okay, so, could I have a motion to close public comment?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Would we like to go on to the regular meeting, or 5-minute break? Okay, 5-minute break it is. Leave that for another day. We'll talk later. Okay. All right. Moment of silence and salute to the flag. For this moment of silence, let's keep the victims of Las Vegas in our minds. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Adequate notice of this meeting was provided to the Westfield Leader, advertised on January 5th, 2017. Notification was sent to the Star Ledger and prominently posted on the municipal public bulletin board and filed in the office of the municipal clerk, informing the public of the time and place according to the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Law, Chapter 231, PL 1975. Roll call.
Mayor Lombardo is excused tonight. Councilman Blumenstock,
Here.
Councilman Toro,
Here.
Councilman Lazaro,
Here.
Councilman Petrozelli,
Here.
Councilman Sarno,
Here.
Council President Sinisco.
Here. Ms. Brzezinski, could you read the minutes, please?
Regular workshop and executive minutes of the mayor and council held on September 26, 2017.
Would someone make a motion to accept the minutes as presented, please?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Ms. Robinski, could you read the communications, please?
New Jersey League State of Municipalities Mayor's Advisory. Township of Clark, Resolution 17-134 expressing opposition to Oprah legislation. Township of Union, Resolution 2017-299 expressing opposition to Oprah legislation. Township of Cranford, Resolution 2017-341 expressing opposition to Oprah legislation. City of Broadway, Resolution AR 203-17 condemning racism, white supremacy, and Nazism in the United States of America. Broadway Valley Sewage Authority regarding the minutes of the meeting held on August 17, 2017.
Thank you. We have one ordinance this evening up for adoption. It's public hearing on ordinance 17-20 as advertised in the Westfield Leader. Ms. Rubinski, could you read the ordinance by title?
An ordinance authorizing renovations, remodel to areas in the offices of the Garwood Police Department and Administration Department to create office space and file storage areas and the purchase of office equipment, including furniture and file cabinets for use in and by the Garwood Police Department and Administration Department, and appropriating the sum of $30,000 from the Capital Improvement Fund to finance the cost thereof.
Thank you. Did we receive any correspondence?
No correspondence, Council President.
Thank you. Does anyone present wish to be heard concerning ordinance 17-20?
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem Danisco, ladies and gentlemen of the council. Bruce Patterson. 325 Willow Avenue. First, we don't have an engineer, I guess, or I know you hired one, but he's going to start the first of the year. I mean, doesn't a borough engineer get involved in something like this? I'm just wondering, who's doing any engineering review and such?
Well, we did just hire a borough engineer, as you know, but essentially, it's very minor renovations that will be taking place that will be overseen by the administrator as well as the chief of police. And so it was planned along, while we didn't have a borough engineer. Perhaps if he's needed, he'll get involved, but it's, again, light renovations.
All right, the new engineer is going to be sitting, when, the first of the year or something?
He already began,
Oh, he did.
but I don't think he'll be attending all the council meetings,
Yeah.
like Mr. Goriel did.
Oh, that's not part of his responsibility.
It's one call time.
Do you have any other questions
Yeah,
related to
yeah, I'm
the
just wondering,
ordinance?
I know about I guess it was about a month and a half ago, you did mention about a dollar amount. I think you said 30, right? You said 40,000 roughly, was that what it was?
It was about 20,000 on the administrative side and about 10,000 on the police department side, so that's where the 30 is from.
Oh, this is both projects?
Correct.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Could I have a motion to close public hearing on ordinance 17-20?
So moved.
Second?
Could I have a motion to adopt ordinance 17-20?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Blumenstock,
Aye.
Councilwoman Kukrow,
Yes.
Councilman Mazaro.
Aye.
Councilman Petrozelli,
Aye.
Councilman Sarno,
Aye.
Council President Tedesco.
Aye. All right, council standing committee reports and other reports. Police, Councilman Petrozelli.
Thank you, Mayor. Prevention Links and the Health and Wellness Coalition of Union County are once again coordinating the 18th annual Union County Red Ribbon Drug Prevention Walk on Saturday, October 21st at Milton Heath Park, 1024 Springfield Avenue in Cranford. The walk will begin at 9 a.m. with a Red Ribbon Free Family Fun Day running at 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. As New Jersey and our nation continue to battle the heroin epidemic, Garland Police Department would like to invite community members to join and unite with family and friends to end the stigma of addiction. Today is National Put the Brakes on Fatalities Day. Police are encouraging motorists to obey all traffic laws, including buckling up during every ride, drive the speed limit, avoid distraction while driving, and driving sober. The goal of the initiative is to experience a single day where there are no fatalities on the road. Also, the new radar signs are installed at Spruce, Center, and 4th Avenue. Hopefully people will adhere to the flashing signs and actually have us slow down. That's all from my report, Mayor.
I'd like to make a comment on that.
Sure,
I really
Councilman.
want to thank Chief Wright for taking a really proactive measure on getting something done that's been bothering the residents for quite a long time. I think I brought it up 6 times last year, nothing was done, so thank you very much on behalf of the residents of Garwood.
Thank you, Chief.
Can I add something to the police report? There's no standing committee for the first aid squad, but I think it's important to note, I mean, it's police, public safety, whatever it may be, but they're running full night crews every night of the week. Think about it, I mean, that was the last time that really happened. We're benefiting from Roosevelt Park just shut down their EMTs. There's a big deal over there. I'm not going to go into details about it, but all those people needed somewhere to go. They've come to Garwood, and they're running full night crews over here, and that reduces costs for all of us. Heaven forbid we need first aid in the borough, and I'm just happy that the first aid squad has really taken the right steps and coming back to life, so to speak. So
Definitely.
wanted to at least report on it, get it out there, talk to the cameras, and they always need volunteers. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilman. I'm really happy you brought that up. I met a few of those volunteers that came over from Roselle Park. And really, they could have went anywhere, but they chose to be here in Garwood helping us, another small town, and that's really wonderful to have them here and to know they're running full night crews now. And they're happy to help us, which is just fantastic. So a real big thank you over to the first aid squad.
Absolutely. And they're running even one day group on Wednesdays. Think about that.
Terrific.
And yeah, I know he's getting honored this weekend. Gene Kablinski is the real reason. He's been in the squad for decades. And really deserves the honor he's going to get by the Knights of Columbus, and that's my opinion, but he's the real driving force behind getting all these guys to come here.
Terrific. Thank you. Public Health, Councilwoman Kukrow.
No report. The last meeting was canceled due to a few people were out, but we will be having our next meeting in November.
Thank you. Streets and Roads and Ecology, Councilwoman Blumenstock.
Thank you, Mayor. In addition to regular garbage duties, the DPW continued to perform major in-house repairs to the borough sweeper. However, various areas of the south side of the borough were swept using both Fanwood sweeper and operator. In addition, the DPW installed new street side garbage receptacles in various locations to replace old compromised cans. And they also cleaned up and prepared the equipment storage garage for leaf bag storage. On a side note, you may have noticed some new garbage trucks driving around this week. 2 of our garbage trucks broke down last week. Thankfully, we were able to get by with help from the county and Westfield, and we do hope to have the 2011 truck back in use by next week. So that's all for my report now.
Thank you.
Quick question, when will the north side be done as far as street sweeping?
We are still working it out, as we've said before, because it is a shared service. We have to use it on days that they are not, and so we also need to use their operator for that. So it's about working out logistics with Fanwood.
We don't have an operator in Warwick?
It's a different type of machine. It's a very expensive machine, and so we use their operator for it.
And to follow up on Councilwoman Kukrow's question, the north side was swept earlier in the season, correct?
It was.
With our
With
own
ours
equipment before
the
it broke?
sweeper broke down.
Okay. So as of right now, the north side has
So
been
we're trying
swept
to
once
focus on
earlier in
the
the season
south
and the
side
south
at
side
this
once, with the exception, of course, Barwood Rocks. The Fanwood sweeper was in for that too, right?
Yes, that's true.
So it would be nice to see more regular sweeping.
This is something that I will be having regular meetings with the DPW chairman over in Fanwood, and it is something that's sort of an ongoing discussion with us that perhaps we can work something out more regularly.
That would be great.
Okay, moving on. The fire report, Councilman Sarno.
Thank you. The fire committee hereby approves the membership application of Edmund Lazinski, 3 Garside Place, Clark, New Jersey, as passed physical background requirements. That's all for my report.
Terrific. Finance, no report. Buildings and grounds, Councilman Lazaro.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna echo what I said earlier, but I'll say it again. So we are waiting to get bids for the repair of the rec complex, as we never received any bids. For the first time, we put an ad out. The bid deadline is October 17th for our second round, so hopefully we will get a contractor interested in completing the work based on the specifications, and as soon as we get that information, we will share that with the public. That's all.
Thank you. Laws and license, Councilwoman Kukrow.
Thank you. Also at our last laws and license meeting, we discussed the ongoing property maintenance issue. After continued meetings all this year to address this, we are now prepared to revise the old Boca Code with the new property maintenance code. We have been bringing this up in numerous meetings as we moved along to keep everyone posted on our progress. We would like to investigate whether it is worth the expense of bringing someone on part-time to fill this position. In our brief encounters with surrounding towns, there seems to be a consensus that there are people that would be interested in doing this. I did email Tina this past week to see if we can create the position first before we start interviews, and do we have this position in our code now, or do we have to create it? She will get back to us when she's back at the next council meeting. So thank you. Oh, wait, before I forget, I always forget these.
Oh.
There are 2 applications for raffle licenses. The Laws and License Committee recommends the following. The adoption of resolution number 17-188 for the application of 1 on-premise merchandise, 1 on-premise 50/50 raffle license event to be held November 17th at the Knights of Columbus, 37 South Avenue, and the Garwood, New Jersey by the Clark Little League. And that's all for my report. Thank you.
Thanks, Councilwoman. Garwood Senior Citizen Liaison, Councilwoman Blumenstock. Oh, sorry. Councilman Petrozelli, Recreation.
I don't have.
See, I already wrote down that you didn't. You gave the hint early. Okay. Councilwoman Blumenstock.
Thank you. At our October 5th meeting, we had a speaker from Brook Healthcare visit us once again. This time the topic was humor and health. Laughing is one of the best medicines you can give your body, and it has been shown to have a positive effect on all of our systems. It helps your immunity, lower stress, and even help your heart and lungs work more efficiently. So watch a funny movie or tell jokes with your friends. In fact, many jokes were told at the meeting, some funny, some not so funny. But we were even able to find the laughter in those. So also at the meeting, I updated everyone on Russo's Town Hall held last week, and we spoke about the new changes involved with the redevelopment in terms of parking for our club meetings. So our next meeting is October 19th. That's all for my report, Mayor.
Thank you. Library Mayor's Representative, Councilman Lazaro.
Thank you, Mayor. The library is running 2 contests this October. The first is an I Spy Halloween display. Children guess how many bats, ghosts, etc. there are in the display. All participants receive a small prize. The library is also running a pumpkin painting contest. Participants must decorate their pumpkin as a character from a children's book. The first 20 participants to sign up will get a free pumpkin, and winners will receive gift cards. The Wednesday afternoon STEM program, Inventive Investigation, started October 4th at 3 p.m. The first topic was bugs, and children received a bug eye kaleidoscope to take home. Next week's topic will be earthworks. Kids will look at what causes earthquakes and volcanoes. This program will run each Wednesday until November 15th. The class of 20 is full, and there is currently a waiting list. Checks for the Museum Pass program. For the Museum Pass program have been cut, and the passes should arrive very soon. So if you're interested in any of the museums that were mentioned in the last meeting, Imagine That, the Newark Museum, Grounds for Sculpture, and I'm forgetting one other, but Intrepid, thank you, Intrepid Museum. Feel free to go to the library to get those museum passes. Each pass can be borrowed for a 3-day period. Please contact the library or check out website for additional information. And in October, the library's regular program includes Knitting Club every Monday and Thursday at 10:30, Story Time every Wednesday at 10:30, STEM every Wednesday at 3, Movie Time every Friday at 10, Adult Craft Tuesday, October 17th at 6 p.m., Kids Craft Tuesday, October 24th at 3 p.m., and Lego Club Thursday, October 12th and 26th at 3 p.m. That's all.
Thanks, Councilman. School Board Liaison, Councilman Sarno.
No report.
Okay, Celebration of Public Events and Holidays Liaison. I have the report right here. The Celebrations Committee is excited for a fun-filled fall and holiday season with a number of events and contests planned. So as a reminder, the annual pumpkin carving contest will take place on Saturday, October 28th. Anyone from toddlers to adults may submit an already carved or painted pumpkin for judging by bringing it with them to the table set up at the edge of the First Aid Squad parking lot at 4 p.m. October 28th is also the Trick or Trunk event in the parking lot across from Lincoln School. So the winners of the pumpkin carving contest will be announced at about 5 p.m. There will be 4 age categories, with each competing for prizes of gift cards of $25, $15, or $10 for first, second, and third place respectively. Hope to see you there with your pumpkin. Also, in the spirit of Halloween, the committee will be presenting the annual Halloween house decorating contest. For your chances to win a $75, $50, or $25 prize, simply decorate your home and submit your address via email to garwoodcelebrations@garwood.org. I'm already seeing a lot of really great decorated houses out there. Judging will be completed by October 23rd. Winners will be announced on Halloween itself, October 31st, at the annual Lions Club sponsored Halloween Parade at Lincoln School at about 7:30 p.m. Please check out the Garwood Celebrations Facebook page or the Borough website for updates and more information. And that's all for my report. Union County Air Traffic Noise Advisory Board Representative, Councilwoman Blumenstock.
No report, Mayor.
Thank you. Administrative Review Committee, Councilwoman Kukrow.
No report.
Historical Committee, I have a report. The Historical Committee met last week. The committee is still in the process of preparing ornaments for sale this holiday season. Each ornament will contain a historic picture of something important to Garwood. We're really excited to launch this as a series so that folks can look forward to new releases each year. Ornaments will be sold in a set of 3, and I'll provide more information on the ornaments once they are finalized. We are also busy creating a newsletter to introduce the group and our mission, as well as provide some other interesting historical information to send to everyone in town. And that's all for that report. Parking Committee, Councilman Sarno.
Thank you. The Parking Committee met on Thursday night, September 28th, and discussed various issues regarding parking in the borough now and what's to come in the future. The following points were discussed among the members of the committee, business owners, and their respective representatives. Remember, we opened this up using the help of our Chamber of Commerce liaison. She got a lot of businesses, and we all reached out to people we knew that may not be in the chamber. We discussed, what are your thoughts on a paid parking station like what's in Cranford, its effect on your business. If we implement these, do we institute a free time period? If so, for how long? Would the turnover of vehicles help your business? If so, and how? How important would a public lot and/or increased spaces be to your business? Where do your employees park now? And what are your biggest challenges? And as a committee, do we grant passes for them? Along the same lines, do we make the lot across the street from the post office exclusively for business owners and their employees? Do we grant businesses the equivalent of residential parking passes? And if this can be worked out, what is the limit per business? As a committee, council, what challenges will we have instituting such a policy? So it was a very good meeting. All told, 20 Garwood businesses were represented that night and presented their concerns and follow-up questions to what we presented by the committee. According to us and various business owners, it was a productive meeting, and many look forward to continuing this dialogue, most likely after a few months of hiring a parking enforcement officer, if council should move forward with the hiring when presented, to evaluate the progress of that move. So what we'll do is parking enforcement, we value, if we get hired, if we hire them. When Chief Wright makes that motion, we'll present that to us. We'll evaluate how the work is being done, and then we'll meet again to see if there's any kind of progress for the business owners, if they're seeing an improvement. And if not, what can we do better? So we'll continue this dialogue. This is going to be an ongoing thing. This is not something that like one and done, we're good. No, this is going to continue and continue as we go forward. If anyone wants to add to it, I know Lou and Eileen are there as well. So very productive, and I don't go off script here, but I just
It
enjoyed it.
definitely was a good meeting. I mean, hearing from the businesses is something that I wanted to hear for quite a while. And I don't think that we can exclude them in, what we ultimately plan to do for the parking situation in town. The problem is that Garwood's a small town and there's not a lot of place to park. So, it is going to be an ongoing thing. It's something that we, definitely have to, bring them back in and, see if there's any changes, see if anybody else missed the meeting as well, just to get different ideas. So it was a really good meeting to actually sit down with a lot of the business owners. I mean, it was a pretty packed room. I mean, I thought it was good. Going forward.
Also, I did think it was a good meeting. There was a lot of info given that, well, I was aware there is no parking. But also, I think you said you would send us over the list of who was there.
They're on the email that you received.
I didn't see it.
I was re-forward it.
No, was it an attachment?
Yeah, I have it on a list too. I can
Okay.
send that to
All
as
right,
well, in
great.
addition to that.
I'll take a look at it.
But
Thank you.
Make sure everyone gets.
Yeah, if you could send that to the whole council and the mayor, I think
Sure
that'd be
thing.
great.
Yep.
I too think it's a wonderful meeting you've had from what I can tell. And one business owner reached out to me about, I think it was the second to last bullet point you brought up,
Yeah.
about how right now there's an issue for some that do not have parking at their business location,
Yeah.
and then they go to the streets potentially, and that's resident preferred. And then now there's greater enforcement, which is really a good thing,
Yeah.
at our 2-hour, 1-hour parking spots. So is there any determination on that item, if they will be granted passes, or that's just in talks right now too?
I think it's really in talks. I think we want to focus on the first thing is have the chief get the parking enforcement officer. He's not.
Okay.
That's the key. Present it to council. We vote on it. We okay it. Let's see what happens after that point in time. Let's
Okay.
see how the enforcement goes.
Right,
Are we seeing the improvement? And I think that's going to evolve our discussions to your
okay.
further point. I mean, that's
Okay.
kind of the gist of everything. To make
That
sense.
sounds good. I just want to put on the radar that
Sure.
it's a current concern. So having the parking enforcement officer would not necessarily alleviate that particular concern. I know it's been kicked around for a couple of years. Councilman Petrozelli's been on that committee a while, and that committee was formed years ago, kind of quieted down and came back. So just want to put that out there that someone reached out and that's what they were saying. And I'm curious to see the list too, to see if it matches up. So
Yeah.
Thanks for that.
Yeah, and we encouraged, for employees that don't have that parking, maybe park full blocks off.
Mhm.
Go up to Locust. This is a suggestion.
Sure.
We can't tell what to do.
Well,
And you also
my
brought a suggestion
feeling-
too.
Yeah, but, I mean, my feeling right now would be to have permit parking passes for the businesses and let them park where we have the preferred parking right now, for the residents. For me, to have a specific parking lot just for that, I don't think we even have enough, to even make that happen. And I think, you know, if we tried to do that, that would upset a lot of people because then you don't have a place to park because that parking lot would be full of other cars. I mean, we do have lots of streets in town, you know, people can walk to their, you know, they can walk to their place of business. They don't have to be around the corner, they don't have to be in front of it. So if you're gonna be somewhere all day, 8 hours, you know, for you to have a parking pass and, you know, maybe park down by Spruce or something like that, and then have to walk back to your business if it's right here, that's really not a bad thing, and it does spread the parking around. So that's kind of where I'm going with it
Yeah,
right
in
now.
theory, I agree, but there's gonna be some legal hurdles.
Yeah.
So, I know that Bob's touched upon it in the last meeting, but in theory, I wanna see this happen.
Thank you. Moving on to the officers' reports. Ms. Worzbinski, could you read them for us?
Chief of Police James H. Wright, monthly reports for August 2017. Zoning Code Enforcement Officer Lendy Stefano, monthly reports for September 2017.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
Make that motion?
Second.
Thank you. Public comment. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to address the mayor and council? Please step to the microphone, state your full name and address. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Jim Matthew, 335 Hazel Avenue, Mayor Tedisco. What was the 1, 2, and 3 bedroom mix on the attachment on the March 1st email referenced earlier in the meeting? You know, I have legalese right here because we're running very legalese type meetings. So what was the 1, 2, and 3 bedroom mix that Councilman Sarno should have known about attached to the March 1st email that Mayor Tedisco referenced? That's the first question. The second one is, do we have any indications, Councilman Lazaro, why we didn't get any bids on that? Okay. And the answer may be no, but, okay. The third thing I just want to check, I brought to Mayor Lombardo's attention a serious conflict of interest that you, Councilwoman Tedisco, had during Teamster negotiations with the DPW in 2016. Did he ever discuss that conflict of interest with you? Because I'm starting to wonder if he fell down on the job here. And you also said that you requested a new assignment, which basically refutes what Mayor Lombardo said, that you were being taken off the committee because of your master's program. You said you requested a new assignment. Can you please remind, since what Mayor Lombardo said obviously was not true, what was the new assignment or new placement that you requested, if you could just refresh our memories? And I think those are my questions. The attachment, the no bids, and then your conflict of interest during the Teamster negotiations and why you left the committee or forced to resign or left or whatever, removed from the committee in 2016. That's all I have.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public wish to comment? Go ahead, Mr. Patterson.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem Tedesco, ladies and gentlemen of the council, Bruce Patterson, 335 North Avenue. Just to continue with talking about the presentation that was given by Russo over at the school, I did bring up another, what I feel, and hopefully a lot of other people feel, is a serious concern about the driveway location near the firehouse. I brought that up, his engineer says, well, it's 100 feet away. Well, 100 feet away is basically like 2 houses in our town. That's a serious issue. I mean, it's better to be safe than sorry when you're going to have a light there probably, and so you're going to be hemming in the firehouse between this light and that light at the driveway, and both of these lights are very close. So there's going to be some major congestion because we're already congested, as everybody can't deny. So, you know, I brought it up. He dismissed it saying, well, it's 100 feet away. That's not the answer. I mean, I want to hear actually discussions. I have never heard any discussions like that. The site plan review right now is in the planning board. I would hope that they're actually going to talk about it, because when you're talking about a firehouse and you're talking about heavy congestion and you're talking about this major driveway that has 300 units, and when you're talking about just one driveway in and out, and basically if you want to envision something, it's the whole length of Willow Avenue. I live on Willow Avenue. It's like the whole length of Willow Avenue would be going in and out just one driveway. And, you know, and there's even more. It's even bigger than Willow Avenue. But that's the impact that you would have with a lot of cars going in and out when that light changes and there may be a fire. You can't be too safe when it comes to talking about a firehouse. I suggested it goes down on West Street, you know, the next street down there, and I don't know, somehow nobody's really running with that. But we're talking about serious safety concerns, traffic, the light, congestion. So I mean, something, again, going back, the government should be responsible in recognizing these serious safety issues, not just the people coming up and complaining that they foresee something. Will something happen? I don't know. But to tell you the truth, it's a serious consideration must be done. Not just saying, well, it's pretty good, it's 100 feet away. That's not good enough. It has to be a lot longer. Again, back to the reval that you were talking about, you know, and of course I was going town to town, saying, why don't we get the county to take out of their $43 million surplus, and Chair Bergen of the Freeholders say, you know, oh, it's a conflict of interest. And then when I asked Council Barry, and I mentioned this before, I asked Council Barry, well, let's hear your opinion or some backup or something that determines that it's a conflict of interest. And I get a response back on my Oprah that says, oh, it's a client-attorney privilege. So, I mean, to me, and you know me in the county, but I mean, it's one person lies and another person will back them up. So, I mean, it's pretty sad down there. So, I mean, shouldn't let it go. I mean, if anything, the next step is then how about getting the mayors involved, the mayor council, and I mentioned that. And also, I might have mentioned that why don't we get the county just to give a grant per house, whether the town uses it for a reval or not would be something else, but a per household grant for each town. Now that's fair, equitable, the Democrats, the Republicans, everybody makes a little bit of grant money, you know, on each house and come from the county surplus. Just, I guess, one last issue. Supposedly there was an RFP on a DPW roof that was never discussed in council. I've been coming to these public meetings, and somehow is it out for bid? And something sounds like procedure was violated here that it really should be talked about in public. The workshop sessions or something. I know Lou first brought up that there's issues down there, but then also now we have this RFP that's out to bid. Are you not going to answer right away? All right.
Okay. So I have 3 items right now.
By the way, that rec complex, and Mr. Matthew mentioned that. I'm trying to get this one company, SAI, to come up with a bid. But the issue is, looking at the drawings, it's a crummy little job. It's mold remediation. It's just so many square footage of wood that needs replaced. It's a public works job, which kind of creates a lot of paperwork and bonding and stuff like that. I mean, if it was a home, you'd have plenty of bids. But I mean, when you get into public works project, it's just a boondoggle. And in fact, the price is even 20 to 30% higher than it should be. But anyway, that's the issue. It's just a little ugly job. But hopefully I can get this one guy, you know, bid. But anyways, thanks.
Thanks, Mr. Patterson. Anyone else in the audience? Okay, so to answer these questions, the question first asked to the council about the bedroom mix based on the March 1 email. Again, Mr. Renaud, if you want to chime in, you can, but I feel like we've said this now 4 or 5 times tonight. This is a matter that's under negotiations, and it would not be appropriate to discuss it tonight. Mr. Renaud, is there anything?
That's my advice,
So-
because you're still negotiating. I don't want to have the council lose whatever leverage it has to negotiate.
Right, I mean, it's almost similar to the rec complex situation. We often get in these situations where we'd like to discuss 100% of everything out here open in public session, but it just might not make sense legally to do that. And I would defer to Mr. Renaud on that one.
And also, if I may, just.
Sure.
Everyone has received the same information on this council, so it's not like one person's receiving secret information. We all receive the same information, we all discuss, you know, in closed session. So, but just to re-emphasize, you know, we're in current negotiations with that.
Thank you, Councilman. Why no bids on the recreation complex? Mr. Lazaro, do you want to
Yes.
say anything to that?
So I actually
Mr. Patterson
think
did in his public comment too, but you don't have
really
to
did
go
a
into
nice
that.
job of answering that question for Mr. Matthews. So I will echo the same thing. It's just not it's a smaller job, and it's harder to get contractors to, I guess, bid on that kind of job. So, yeah, I think that pretty much answered that question.
Right. And quite honestly, we knew it could be a hurdle, but with the law the way it is, we have to go through the process, bidding it once, bidding it a second time, and then if need be, we can award with a no-bid contract. The third item about my assignment to the Streets and Roads Committee, the last thing I'll say about this is I did not resign from the committee. I asked the mayor if he wouldn't mind taking me off the committee because of various commitments at the time. I was on Finance Committee in the budget, there were negotiations, graduate school is true, I'm in a master's program for teaching, and I did put that request out to the mayor. He granted it. I didn't specifically ask for a new assignment, but he did change the arrangement of that one committee at that time. Moving on to
Well,
Mr.
Mayor, I got one.
I'm not finished.
Did he discuss the conflict of interest with you, that you didn't answer my question?
I'm going to move on to Mr. Patterson's
So
question.
you're not going to answer the question, Mayor?
I think we're done with that. okay?
So you're not going to answer the question, Mayor? Did
I
Mayor
said I wanted
Lombardo
to.
discuss the conflict of
Just move
interest?
Excuse me, don't shout out from the audience,
Just
please.
move on.
Okay.
So
Oh,
in
just-
response
okay.
to Mr. Patterson's questions, the first one about the driveway location, perhaps our planning board liaison or Mr. Arnott could address that, but will that be discussed further in the site plan review? The exact location of the driveway?
I'm not sure as to how detailed the redevelopment plan is. That would ordinarily be something that the planning board would review. That just, as with McDonald's, as I said before, that's what the purpose of site plan review generally is, to look at things like where are the driveways, where are they coming in, where are they going out, and that sort of thing. So my assumption would be that unless the redevelopment plan is so specific as to locate a driveway in a particular place, that would be a matter that would be reviewed during site plan.
Thank you. As for the issue brought up about congestions or traffic, Russo did a study, traffic study that was given to the council, and it's public information. However, with the site plan review process, the planning board will be getting an independent traffic advisor to review the plan and to look at anything they could do to mitigate any increase in traffic. The second one about the revaluation, I'll pass that along to Mayor Lombardo as well. And as he's mentioned before, the mayor's roundtable in Union County